Hi, I'm Kati Baak, Senior Consultant at the House of Marketing, and I'm passionate about all things customer experience and innovation. Today, we're going to talk about customer experience and how to foster a more customer-centric mindset within your organization. I'm here together today with Stefan Velsteke, business designer, service designer, and expert in behavioral design.
My name is Stefan Velsteke. I am business and service designer, and I'm specialized in behavior and responsible design.
So, Stefan, let's maybe start at the start. Let's try to get some terminology straight. So, at the House of Marketing, we see customer experience as the perception a customer has of all interactions they have with your business. So we dive into the data, we analyze the data, and we try to improve the experience across the journey. Maybe in a more human language, we try to analyze the different touch points, but also the feelings that come with certain experiences. We try to remove frictions, lower barriers, and also get some try to get some delights in there as well. I'm very curious to know from you how you see behavioral design. What is behavioral design for you, and how does it actually relate to customer experience?
Yes. For me, customer experience is at the end facilitating an intended behavior. So meaning that whether you're a customer and you're at the telco, you want to have a mobile subscription, so there are some activities that you want to do in order to come up with the best mobile subscription. So you're gonna compare, you wanted to know what is included, and you want to get a sense of what's the value and what do I get and why this mobile provider. So at the end, these are all activities, these are all behaviors. Yeah. And for me, the experience is to make it as smooth as possible, really to facilitate the behaviors of a customer. So that's on a customer level, but when you look at a level above, why do we serve people? Why do we build solutions? It's really to help them with their challenges in life, whether it's in a B2B or a B2C. And there as well, it's always about, like you said, friction management. I really like that word, and maybe we can have a deep dive in it. But there, you know, when you remove the friction, whether it's on a physical or a mental level, there you give a good experience. It's not always about the lighting, because the lighting, it's subjective. And when you have something that lowers the barrier, that is less friction for the person, that is less thinking, that is less uncertainty, there's something you can accelerate and put it on a larger scale. So at the end, that's, for me, that is customer experience. How does behavior design come into the picture? Is I talked about facilitation of behavior, and then behavior design is gonna see what are all the elements that influence a behavior. So, for example, in a buying, let's say in a buying journey, the element of value is important. But what makes now a value important? What are the elements? It's not only the price, but it's also like the context, how the things are being presented. They could be influenced by social people or by social influence. So there are some specific elements we highlight, and then we see, okay, how can we then facilitate our interaction with the customer in order to give a better value perception? So that is just about value, but also on choice. How can we make or help people to make a choice? So at the end, what the behavior design does is that looking at behavior and applying principles from behavior science. Because the thing is, with customer experience, we think we need to start from scratch now, zero, to go into customer research, which can be quite labor intensive. But then again, if you understand the basics of human behavior, and the science has already done years and years of research, so you have already a database ready. So you can apply these principles and also techniques in order to come up with a better customer experience.
It makes me immediately think of psychology as well, right? Do you have a background in that? What are potential techniques that you can use there?
Coming to your first question, is psychology. At the end, it's about understanding how the mind works. From my personal perspective, I have, let us say, 25 years of personal growth. So, and for me, it began as a necessity, and then it grew really as a fascination, understanding how my mind works, how it's linked with my body, with my soul, how is the interaction. And there, so from a professional point of view, I was always focused on customer. And at the end, there's a beautiful intersection. And I really wanted to deep dive into the mind. And for example, one of the aspects that I'm now deep diving in is emotion. How is an emotion built? How is an emotion constructed in us? And how does it influence our behavior?
So you really are looking at the theory, but also within yourself, and then looking at the customer as well. I think that's a really interesting insight. Just to begin on the friction hunting, a nice example that I have as well is a company I previously worked for. They actually had a platform. It was called What the Frick. And basically what they did is they encouraged employees to go friction hunting and to log it. So it could be as simple as saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to dedicate 1 hour to go friction hunting from a client perspective. But there it was actually embedded more in a structural way where they built just a simple platform. It can be as simple as a SharePoint, really. And they really encouraged the employees, also the screens on the inside of the building was also talking about that. And about logging certain frictions that clients might have. They can be really small, like certain buttons that are not clickable, or they can be really big. And I think that's a very nice way of building your backlog and removing that friction as well.
Yeah. I really like the idea. We as people, we look at things differently, So sometimes our friction level is differently. So it's good to involve and to get some feedback and input from different people. Yeah. I think friction is also a container term. So at the end, what is friction? It's what takes... when you want to do an action, but the effort is too high. At the end, you can see it like that. And so the effort. What is an effort then? The effort is it's what you need to do. It's like linked to your energy. We all have limited energy. We all have. Sometimes we say we have limited time. And then we say, okay, how much time does it take? It goes fast, so it's frictionless. Not per se, It can, it can be that things are not clear. So on a mental level, you have a lot of frustration and thinking going on. So that's also friction. The thing is, from friction, you have different friction elements. And there's a lot going on a cognitive level. And which is not really tangible and seen for someone, but it's out there, and we underestimate the impact of that friction on actually the action.
Oh, for sure. Just imagine someone's building an onboarding flow. How often do you see that people are really going back to that onboarding flow? Okay, the flow is there. No, the flow is there, but there might be a lot of hiccups and a lot of friction. So just go look at your own flows as an organization to see, are they really frictionless?
One of the things that I like, I introduced it in 2 companies already. It's it's we are a bit competitive, as a human beings, and I like to put a score, whether you call it the effort score or the friction score,
Yeah.
and then when you assess, like you do a test or you assess something, you can put a score. And
Yeah.
just that score, how you come up with the score. So there are different levels that you can say, okay, the time it then takes, I need to think about it. It gives me an uncertainty feeling. So at the end, you come up with -5, I say something,
Yeah.
Then you want to say, okay, where do we want to bring, how higher do we want to get? We are a -5. Do we want to get a -3 or -2? So it's not that the number is the target, but it gives a kind of direction to the people.
And it's super tangible, I
Exactly.
think. And it's a lot more tangible than an MPS, for example. I really love the example of just the friction number. Let's put a number on it. Let's make it measurable, and let's make it super tangible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice one. Yeah. Okay. Maybe let's start at the start. At the House of Marketing, we see a lot of companies that are already working on their customer experience, but also companies that are not really sure how to start and also how to actually embed it into their business strategy. Do you have potential tips for those companies to actually start with customer experience and embedding it in their day-to-day work and in their business strategy?
It all depends. At the end, you need to see it like that. It's behavior change. You want to bring something new within the company. You want to change like a bit the mindset. You want to change the way people are going to behave. You want to maybe change procedure structures. And at the end, it's like change. Whenever I came in companies as a consultant, when I have the word change, there is instantly that emotion like, I need to change, I need to do more, I need to, I need to step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see like integrating CX in a company is like a behavior change process.
Yeah.
And at the end, what you want to achieve, what is a mindset? A mindset is something that it's like a frame, you see things through a different glass, So instead of from a product glass, you see it like from a customer glass. You don't want to have this like once, not twice. You wanted to have it as a habit. And so at the end, this behavior change in order to form a habit of looking from a customer perspective.
I think that's really interesting there, where you not only use behavioral design from your customer perspective, but also from really the employee experience, trying to shift that mindset.
How to start with it? It's like a habit, If you make the habit too big, if you make the challenge too big, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, stepping out of my comfort zone. And we all know discomfort, that's something not really, nice to feel. Some people say, that's the grow is in the discomfort. But at the end, on a company level or personal level, it's something else. So start small, look at problems that are really actually going on. That's for me one of the key things. Detect what is not working. And it's like 2 different criteria. How much effort you need to put in, and what's the outcome? And so you can easily make a matrix. You detect the problems, and you see, okay, what has big effort, less outcome, or what has a less effort and a big outcome, and then you can focus on that, and then you can share, and the wins you made, and little by little, the more you share, the more people will see. Because at the end, CX, for me, sometimes is like a container. It's like, okay, theory, we are CX-driven.
And it's
for
not
sure.
for everyone, and it's you guys and not us.
Exactly. So, and that's why you need to make it tangible. You need to show things. You need to share either the stories of other companies and just share an interface or a website or a service they did and share the results they had. And then you can do external, but you can also do internal. So the more stories you share, the more people you involve, the more people see, well, yeah, that it actually worked, you know? Actually, we get more performance. We get a higher sales rate.
Yeah.
And that's also important when you want to involve people, is that they know I need to change, I need to do something different, but I know it will help me. I know I will grow.
It has a result.
It has a result, and I will grow as an expert. Whether you're a developer, whether you are a UX designer or a service designer or even a marketing manager, if he doesn't see the growth, if he doesn't see, like giving the dream, you know, people like to dream always, you know, and that is key and essential. And it's one of the key elements of behavior change is motivation. And when people are motivated and they look at whether they have a KPI or the manager maybe has a strong, you know, KPI and he needs to achieve that and everything needs to fit in that. So that's his motivation.
Yeah.
So how can you bring it within his motivation?
Yeah, intrinsic or extrinsic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have some extrinsic things, but intrinsic, it's a really important one because at the end we are driven by our own values. So people who are more like the empathy, people who are more empathic, you know, just, how do you say, focus on them. Focus on them sometimes, you know. Starts with that because, you know, you don't need to change their mindset for now, you know. Yeah. Get them on like these are like your ambassadors, you know, grow your ambassador base, grow your fan base. So also on a management level, you know, detect a bit on a management level who is like the more empathic or who is more into the numbers. And just, you know, always adapt a bit your story.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting what I hear you say is there's actually different things to start. Let's start at the start and let's start with the basics. What I hear you say is let's try to look from that customer perspective and bring that customer inside your room, maybe literally. On the other hand, I also hear you talking about leadership a bit as well. And what you mentioned about KPIs, motivation, but also the data behind it, I think that's it's very interesting. And I think that are the key, a great sum up of the three key elements that make where someone can start actually with customer experience. It's about customer journeys, but there's so much more behind it. And I think definitely the behavioral part and the motivation and bringing that mindset inside of getting that voice inside, I think that's really interesting. Maybe to build on that, bringing that voice of the customer inside, I think there are different ways to do that. Personally, I also believe what you mentioned, let's keep it as simple as possible. Once I had a very good manager, and he was actually the lead of a design team. And he mentioned to everyone, that's also the role of leadership there, but he mentioned to everyone, I would like everyone to sit together with our customer or a prospects at least once a month. So I think that's one example that I will forever keep with me. I think that's so great to put people together. But maybe for some companies that might be a bit more high to start with, or maybe a big hairy monster to start with. Actually, funny, yesterday I had actually an interview for a new mission, and we were talking about customer interviews and all that, and she mentioned that leadership is actually not really in that mindset yet, and how can we bring that mindset in? And I mentioned that we need to start very low. Why not do a few interviews or user tests and record it? And when you present it, don't translate the insights into your own words. Always use snippets of that interview, because the power of an image or a video is a lot more powerful than 1,000 of my words. And for me, that's actually a major insight that I got throughout the years, is get the people that are working on the inside or inside a company directly in contact or through videos. That can be a first way to get it there.
I like what you say, because at the end you can present a slide and you can have quotes and someone reading up the quotes, but it does not enter my system. Why is it that? Because there is no experience there. There is no feeling in there. When you see, first of all, a customer like through a video talking about something, there first of all, it's another person. It's not you. And then there's more, how to say, emotional feeling to it. At the end, whatever is a feeling is a really important factor of mindsets. And I think I also have this experience, well, you have two types of research, qualitative and quantitative. So just to have like a good, let us say, feeling about and changing a bit the mindset, then put them next to the customer, I see great examples of companies who does this already for a long time. When you start at the company, you start really at serving customers. And then you have like different roles, like the macro did.
I think the Colruyt does that as well, maybe?
I'm not sure, but this is a great way, you actually have within a month, you're really facing customers. Switching roles could also do the trick. Like if you can switch a role with a more customer-facing person, whether it's customer service, it's sales, that helps. And interview. When you interview, just invite someone. Just invite a sales colleague. Just invite a manager. And the best example from management is if management actually talks with customer. Whether this is in a structured way, which you can say, okay, we have a kind of a customer focus group, which you do on a yearly basis. In a B2B, that's more common. In a B2C, a bit less. But then again, managers who used to talk with customer-facing experts or even talk to customers, they bit by bit, that they integrate. And at the end, people change their behavior based on what they know. That's one thing, but also based on what they really feel and heard. You listen up to this story, It's not just, people like to tell stories. So I really like that, and I understand that sometimes it can be kind of a struggle to fit it in. A day, I need to fit in a day in a month. My capacity is always limited. My time is limited. And so there, the video could really do the trick. And then again, what I say is that keep sharing things. Keep sharing things. Whether it's on a monthly newsletter, whether it's on a weekly basis, whether it's like we all have team meetings. Like, a great thing for a team meeting is just take 5 minutes first at the team meeting. Okay, what have we learned last week about customers?
The first customer minutes, right?
Yeah,
so
the first.
You actually get people to, how to say this, if you have this in your company, I think people are a lot more active already on, okay, I need to come with a customer effect, so I need to look it up. Within a certain project, if you start with that video in your presentation, just a small snippet of this is what the customer said, it already sets the right tone, right?
Exactly.
And I think when you mentioned in the beginning, let's start very basic with basic behaviors. That could be one thing actually to open people's eyes. And then the next step maybe could be, as how you mentioned, you invite actually different stakeholders or leadership to your interviews. And what I notice personally, more and more you do that, the more that actually those stakeholders will become the ambassador. I don't know if that's also what you experience, but for me, that's really eye-opening, just bringing the people together. And let's try to find ways of bringing people that are working in a certain HQ to bring them together with that customer or that prospect.
Yeah, totally agree. I will never forget, I was doing interviews, and one of the key elements, when we talk about customer experience, sometimes it's often within marketing. It starts from the marketing level, and then marketing needs to work with sales, getting this collaboration, and then you have the data guys also coming in.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, and at the end, making customer experience happen, making money or growing a business, it's about collaboration. So what I did, I said, look, first of all, I wanted to have interviews with customers. So I went to the sales, I asked, hey guys, I need 10 customers. What do you think? Where these are the profiles? And then I said, why don't you come along with me?
Yeah.
So we prepared a bit. And then we did the interview. And I will never forget his feedback. The first thing he came, we went outside and he said, Stefan, look, I think I learned more within this 2-hour interview than I did like 10 years ago in my job, So
wow.
When you frame, it was all about different questions.
Yeah.
It was not a sales talk, because normally sales, you are aim at selling. And this was really to get to know the customer and really deep dive on some elements. It broadened his perspective.
Yeah.
And that is like reframing his sales story.
Yeah.
And so he could easily pick some nice stories to rebuild his own sales story.
But I think that's a very interesting way of putting sales as well, because sales is not purely about, selling. It's actually about understanding really people's needs in order to propose the right solution, right? And that's also what we're trying to do within customer research or these type of interviews. So I think that's a nice example. Yeah. So we were talking about getting that voice of the customer inside the organization, getting people to really think through the lens or the brain of a customer, right? Do you have potential extra really easy tips on how to do this, apart from the interview part maybe?
At the end, it needs to fit. It all depends on the person, his expertise. That means his role in delivering something. Where do you put him? Is it someone who is at the beginning of the process, doing the research? Is it some designer? Is it someone who needs to bring the story? So you have, depending on the process you are, there are different roles. That's one thing. Second, at the end, it kind of needs to fit. It needs to fit in. And thirdly,
you mean it needs to fit in your organization?
It needs to fit in his role. It needs to fit in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And third element, we all agree upon it. That we need to do it. And we all agreed upon it that we are going to work on it.
And that's a very interesting topic, because then we also, I think, come in what is the role of leadership in that as well, right? Because what I feel like sometimes in organizations, that's priority is not there. And you have all these colleagues or employees that want to move forward with it, but the priorities aren't there. So looking at leadership, what do you think their role should be in customer experience?
I would look at the organization. What is the DNA? What is how really is their mission and their strategy? Because at the end, whatever people do, it's all depends on the context they are working in. So you build the context. For me, it's okay. What's the strategy? What's the DNA of the company? And then the management fits into the DNA of the company. And so whether it's on a management level, I think there's no manager who does not understand that they need to put the customer first. I think, there are a lot of managers understand that. The problem is, or the challenge, I would say, there's always problems can be solved. I would say that the challenge is spending the time and the effort on integrating the customer voice, or integrating a different way of designing services, a different way of doing things. And that can be a challenge, when you have a big company of 300 people, you have existing process, you have IT systems, you have data, and there comes a guy. Guys, we need to change
that habit.
Yeah, we need to change. I'm like, wow, where do we start? So I think integrating into an existing process and system, and there is where a manager comes in to think about it. And I think there is like one of the biggest problem. And so you can, it's about whether they support. Where do you want to go? So you have the context.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? Often I do a maturity assessment. Okay, where are we? Is it something that people are aware? Is it an ad hoc thing? Is it something on project based? Is it something already more structured? Is really fundamental, or is it a norm?
Yeah.
You can have companies, they say nothing goes out of this door before it has been checked with a customer. That's a norm. And it's integrated in their process. And all the process elements, for example, you can have, I call it a customer stamp. You get the file, approved by the customer, APA, and it goes out, So what is a customer stamp? A customer stamp is like, you have verified with the customer, you have tested it with the customer. So there's a lot of kind of checks you did before it sends out.
That hook I'm going to remember. Verified by the customer.
Yeah, something like some. I think some concepts always works because a concept is something in the head of the people, and then the customer stamp.
Yeah.
But that is just one example. And I think.
But also, sorry if I can come back to what you mentioned previously. When you mentioned time and when you mentioned priority, what I personally often see is also that priority is put on short-term projects. So we want to have short-term results, right? So we're going to do the budget cycle for next year, okay, and those are the KPIs and everything needs to be finished by then. But if you launch something new, definitely within innovation maybe, it's a lot of the times not feasible at all to get break even within the first year, let alone within the first 3 years. So I think there also that's, putting that mindset of we want to change, but it will take some time and we're going to do it step by step, rather than if we do not have a result by the end of the year, we're going to cancel it. I don't know if you recognize that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The short-term thinking, yeah.
Especially the last years, I see there's more and more downsizing of budget. There's more looking at ways for efficiencies. So I understand that. And for me, how I see things is like you have a graph, and you can say, okay, want to go like this, at the end we want to, the level of effort and the outcome, we want to do that. But at the end, nothing in life is like that. Nothing in life is like that. Life is about going up, going down, going up, going down, Or you see it in steps. We take one step, maybe one step back, one step up, one step up. And so at the end, I think if you see it like, okay, maybe all these short-term projects, could lead at the end to more integrating a customer.
Would you then advise also a company to rather take a lot of different small projects in order to improve their experience rather than to tackle the big hairy monster?
Well, I would advise always to start with
Start small.
with the little things. When there is capacity to really get a new project in and spend time, then you do. What also help is that that there are different ways, to integrate. How to say, to do it in a different way. To start with customers, it all depends how extensive you want to go. Do you say, okay, we want to do an extensive research, just finding the people, questioning the people, doing an analysis? Yeah, 2 months away sometimes,
Yeah.
So if you say, okay, let's do it in a lean way, we're gonna invite during one day 10 customers, we're gonna integrate, and at the end of 2 weeks, you have a solution. So
Yeah.
it depends on how you see the process.
Yeah.
You can really go into a sprint way, The only challenge is there that sometimes you need to really reserve like 5 days. But it depends, you don't need 5 full days of everyone.
No, I think there indeed the lowering that barrier and getting the habit in there is a really interesting part, because what I've done in my previous job that reminds me of it is we actually set up a pilot to bring HQ colleagues in together with sales reps. So, for example, imagine a bank environment, an insurance environment, but even an automotive environment. You often have a HQ and you have the agencies or the sales or the stores or whatever. And actually, we invited people from HQ, starting with a certain department, to work one time a month or one time per quarter from that specific office or that specific store or agency. And actually, it brought them already more together with the sales reps and also bringing them closer to the clients. And that was also then the role of leadership to agree with that idea. But to say to that team, that department, okay, guys, now we're just going to try it out. Let's try it out for half a year and let's see how it goes. And then we move beyond and we go from there. And you already lower the barrier a lot more to get invited into a sales conversation or to talk to someone. While a lot of times in a big corporate, it's a very big world and sometimes it's two totally different worlds. I don't know if you recognize that.
No, true. Yeah. I think mixing people, mixing places really helps, to see, shift that mindset.
And what you mentioned before, trying out a different job. Like I remember when you mentioned maybe switching the role from the customer support. But even if you don't have that possibility, you can always go and observe there. I've never heard that it's not possible, and I think that adds a lot of value as well of getting inside that mindset of the customer.
And I just want to come back to the management. What at the end, what does the management do? Needs to do?
Yeah.
He needs to make sure the company grows, and he needs to make sure he does it with his team.
The people, yeah.
And of course, you have tools and investments and costs and stuff like that. So I think when it comes to the people, he can really facilitate things. But at the end, he wants to make sure that a change in process bringing the results as well. So having the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes this uncertainty and sometimes, what is the link between doing different and having the business grow? Yeah. That is can be sometimes a big challenge, And there's also a kind of letting go the control, You at the end, what I always say, you never know what you're gonna get from a customer. You can assume something, but maybe we assume totally different, and you have something else. Yeah. So it's kind of, I think, what is the big change would be is like that they are more kind of relaxed. Like okay, you cannot control everything, and just trust in the process. it's like the design thinking process,
Yeah.
which is also not written in stone, you know.
No.
So it's, but always like putting the customer first and integrate it into your whole design process is important.
But I also hear you talk about numbers. And I think numbers often relate to proving the business value of a customer experience project. When we're talking about proving that business value, often I hear people say that it's sometimes difficult to prove that we need to do certain things. How do you go about it? How do you prove that improving certain customer experience actually has business value?
You need to see it on different levels. So at the end, you have to grow in a business, like meaning more revenue or more profit, you know. Doing that, you have some on sales, you need to have some sales performances to realize that. So looking at these sales performances, you know, what is the conversion rate you have, you know, like these things. Then you have the marketing level, marketing performance levels. So looking at numbers for me is not just one number, but you need to see, again, business
what
teams.
What is the goal, and then what number is linked to it?
Yeah, and at the end, the biggest business number, you need to have sales, you need to have marketing, you need to have different. So there have also performance levels. So, and for me, then it comes to, you know, you can improve an email. You can say, hey, look at this email, you know, the opening rate improves. We even got more people that filled in the form, which made us have a better quality. And now our based on the form, and that at the end closed the deal, has proven up at 15%. At the end, we brought, like, last year was 50 clients, now we have 150 clients.
What I think is very important that I hear you say here is often when you think about customer experience, people talk about NPS. NPS is a very big number. But what I hear you say is actually try to use the how to say smallest level of numbers. So start with opening rates, click-through rates of your emails, and not immediately get into that NPS. Is that correct? Or how do you stand by like the classic metrics used in customer experience, being NPS, CSAT, customer effort score, metrics like that?
I'm not a fan of the NPS, to be honest. Because sometimes it lives a life on its own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it can be great, but at the end, is it really the truth, you know?
And what does it say, actually,
what does it
right?
say? And how did you get this score? You know, how do you have these questions? When the questions you get, you know, if I really dig down to when they come up with it NPS, I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah, give us a positive NPS and we'll give you a gift, right?
Something like that. So for me, it's a direction. You know, it's kind of a direction. Like any number is a direction.
Yeah.
For me, there's no end goal in a number. When a number becomes an end goal, then you're wrong. Then you're not doing it in a good way.
Often that's the case. Huh?
I know, because people have like KPIs, you know, and so that's the reality. I know.
Yeah.
But again, at the beginning we talked about just fixing small things.
Yeah, and it also has to do with the metrics. The metrics can also be small metrics with a big impact.
Exactly. So it's a UX, and you're bringing an understanding and an insight from a customer. You're bringing a technique from behavior science, and he sees that at the end he brought a better design, because at the end we got a better conversion ratio.
Yeah.
So that's on his level. He growed his expertise. He's doing something better. At the end, that resulted on a marketing level, you know, and a higher rate on a sales level that also resulted in a higher rate.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about, you have a ladder, you know, you have like different people and a ladder of numbers, and then you see where are you going to do something on integrating of doing something different, and seeing on that you see the change in the score and how it relates to a higher level.
So what I understand here is that you really need to put the metrics behind the goals that you're measuring, not just put metrics for metrics. For example, a lot of companies are using as NPS just for NPS and to benchmark it with other industries without seeing the value in it. So I think that's a powerful message. I think that's a nice one to conclude as well. I would really like to thank you for this conversation. I think I personally had a lot of interesting aha moments and insights. I'm curious to hear from you as well. What's your aha moment that people that are listening or that are watching, what is one thing you would like them to remember from this?
One thing.
Yeah, or three things.
I know, boom, boom, boom. I already have some things. If I want to say something key is that see it as a behavior change that you want to bring within the company. That is one thing, and focus on getting something as a habit.
Yeah.
Because when things are not a habit, you continuously need to put effort to it. When what is a habit? It's an automatic thing. It's an automatic action. People do it like that, you know. They do not need to think about it. So if there's activities that they constantly need to think, it takes effort, you know. It's friction.
A habit is
automatically
automatically frictionless. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say and look how can you build up new habits within the company. I think that is more important than any other score, than any other NPS that you can have.
Yeah. Okay.
And thank you for the invitation, because I really liked and I feel we can continue talking.
Oh yeah, for sure. Next week again. Okay. Thank you very much, Stefan.
Thanks.